What's going on, guys? It's Super, and now the Battlefield 6 beta, week 2, and well, the beta in a whole is now over, we can sort of take a look at what we've seen with the beta from a perspective with our rose-colored glasses taken off, and just how overall things went. A few new things that came out with week 2 of the beta was pretty small, but here they are. First, we got to see the new map, the Empire State. It's the map that takes place in New York, with no vehicles, and it's just a full infantry map. A lot of people are having fun with this map. Personally, I'm sort of on the fence about it. You know, there's no vehicles, but it is sort of a one-off thing with there being no vehicles on the map, which is sort of part of Battlefield's identity, but I can see what they're going for. Second thing is they added Rush. Rush is my favorite game mode in Battlefield, and I was absolutely loving playing it. I do have a few problems with it, however, but we'll get into that later. Another thing that they added was the new bundled searches with like the all-out warfare, the closed weapons all-out, and close quarters sort of bundles that they made for better searching of games and what people's styles are. And in addition to that, they added the custom search option, which I think was the best thing that they added so far, and making it easier for people to know what maps they want to play, what game modes they want to play, so they can cater to what they like. And honestly, I think that was the best thing, because for the most part, I used it a lot with playing Rush and Conquest on the two other maps, which were Cairo and Gibraltar. Those are my two favorite maps from the beta so far, and that's pretty much what I like playing the most. Other than that, most of the things that I've noticed now after playing several hours of the beta, whether it be week 1 and week 2, is a lot of balancing problems that I think the game needs to fix before its release. And a few of those things are a few of the guns. Granted, we don't have all of the guns, or we never got to use all of the guns because we only had like a third of what's actually going to be in the game. But most notably is the SPX, or the MPX is what it's called. That gun is absolutely broken. That gun has zero recoil, insane range, and it can carry a lot of ammo. It needs a nerf. Like, it feels like a Call of Duty weapon in Battlefield, and it just doesn't really fit, and everyone is just running around using it, and it clearly is what feels like the meta. The next thing that I think needs to get toned back a little bit is the thermobaric grenade launcher. The slow of it when you get hit is crazy. I think it needs to not slow you as much, as well as the damage. Like, I feel like it's almost a guaranteed kill if you get hit by one of those things. So many people from week 1 were using the HE and realizing it wasn't that good, and the thermobaric just feels like it's way too good. Another thing was, in my previous video talking about week 1 stuff, was the engineer and how I said it didn't really have a place. After playing more and more, it feels like engineer is way more overtuned than I think any of the other classes are. Especially with the active ability that increases the repair rate of the blowtorch, it feels almost impossible to destroy an enemy vehicle if there's only just one engineer repairing a vehicle. Like, even an IFE that doesn't have that much health, you can shoot it like 19 times with an RPG, and guess what? It's still full health because the engineer has insane repair rate. And it just feels like it needs to get reduced from 50% buff to maybe 25% when you can sort of time your RPGs or with a tank to sort of take out enemy vehicles. It just, right now, it feels like it's almost pointless to even try to take out a vehicle. With that being said, I also feel like tanks, not IFVs, but tanks feel terrible. They don't do any damage to infantry unless you're using the coax gun, but even then it just feels like you're firing a shell at somebody and it has no splash damage. I understand it's meant for anti-tank, but given the option, or lack thereof, of using a high explosive to take out infantry, it just felt like in the beta tanks were so obsolete and you might as well have only just driven the IFE. Also, another point of RPGs that sort of goes against my point is that RPGs don't do any splash damage to infantry. Like, there'll be some times where I'm shooting at it at the feet of like 3 or 4 guys, and it doesn't do anything, maybe 5 to 10 damage to them. When in previous Battlefields, you could shoot an RPG at someone, and it would kill them. But now it feels like you're just tickling people with an RPG, and it takes away from the fun of trying to like snipe someone with an RPG, or like shoot someone through a wall and get the kill, because it's destructible. But in this game it feels sort of pointless to even do that, unless you directly hit someone with the shell, which then you'll get the kill, but it sort of doesn't feel as fun as it used to. And back to the point about guns, DMRs don't feel good at all. I haven't really used them that much simply because I felt like they had almost no impact. The fire rate was slow, the recoil felt really jumpy, and it just didn't feel like how Battlefield 4's DMRs worked, where they were usable at long distance, but also you would be able to win an engagement up close. I think it just goes to show that there is a little bit of an imbalance with the guns and how they perform in most scenarios, because most of the guns have decent range, but typically people are leaning towards the ones with absolutely no recoil at all, and DMRs definitely have that. In addition to the vehicles being sort of underwhelming or overwhelming, depending on which ones, the attack heli's mobility feels slow. It feels like you're unable to move as fast. Now personally, it could be because I'm not someone who really enjoys the attack helicopter as much as the Little Bird, which I do hope we are going to get, because it hasn't really been mentioned anywhere that I can see that it's going to be in the game. And I really hope it does, because that heli is so much more fun than attack chopper to me. Now another thing I'm not 100% sure on is the new maps that we're going to get when the game fully comes out. So far we've seen 4 maps. We know the 5th one, which is going to be Operation Firestorm, which is a classic Battlefield map. But all the other 4 maps seem to be very similar to the 3 other maps that we've already seen. They just seem like rehashed versions of CQB maps with just a tank or just an attack helicopter being around. It feels so much more infantry, close quarters combat. Not so much what we've seen with big open spaces that Battlefield is known for. I'm hoping that some of the maps will be a little bit more tuned. It does have descriptions on every map if you look on the Battlefield website of what is going to entail in each and every map, when it's the vehicle descriptions or if it's just going to be infantry only. But it doesn't really give you much other than that, which also could be bad for the game, because it doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot of variety of how the game is going to be played. It just feels like we're getting small maps with maybe 1 or 2 big maps that have maybe a jet and a helicopter, and some are going to be mostly infantry with maybe an IFV and a tank. It just doesn't feel like people are going to experience a lot of different things, which could end up drying out the game, which is not what we want. We want Battlefield to be successful for a long time. Although I do think the sentiment towards the game is overall positive, actually very positive, there are a few things, like I've mentioned in this video, that could really hurt the game in the long run. And I do think they need to get fixed and tweaked before the game launches. Because if they don't, then people are going to quickly realize, which they have from just playing the 2 weeks of the beta, that there's a lot of issues with the game. And we don't want to see that come into the game when it's live. We want to have the fun, full Battlefield experience. And next, honestly, the biggest thing I've seen, which is the controversy about keyboard versus controller and the recoil changes that they've made. The disparity between recoil between someone who's playing on controller and someone who's using keyboard and mouse is pretty big. There's been videos and TikTok surfacing about it. And it's gotten a little bit of attention from both sides, saying, oh, this is how they balance the game. But a lot of people are upset that it's not the same, considering that controller players get aim assist. I'm not too sure how I feel about it. Playing the game as infantry for most of the time, most of the guns feel pretty good to use on a keyboard and mouse. I haven't played controller, so I don't know. But it doesn't really seem like it's that big of a deal to me. But if DICE gets pressured enough to change this, then I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be a positive thing or if it's going to hurt the game more. Let me know what you guys think about that. And finally, is people getting out of the map. Now, we've seen a lot of people find ways of getting out of the map by parkouring around and parachuting off of a building to the next building and getting on the highway on the Cairo map. And a lot of people are saying this is an exploit that needs to get fixed, but also keep in mind that when the game fully comes out, the assault class is going to get a ladder that they can place around the map and discover new angles that we have yet to see. Now, some of these places that people have gotten, like on the highway on Cairo on the bridge, are probably not intended to be there and should probably get fixed. Although it is kind of funny how in a short time we've had to play the game, people have already discovered so many little things that you can do and exploits in the game that make it seem like, yeah, it's a good thing we had a beta to fix all these things. I mentioned that Rush is my favorite game mode. It has been since Battlefield 3. it was okay in the older Battlefields, which is when people liked it most, like in Battlefield Bad Company and Bad Company 2, when it was 16 versus 16. And in Battlefield 4, it was a lot more players. I believe it was 32 versus 32. And sometimes it was 24 versus 24. And in this game, it's 12v12, but most of the maps are very small. So it sort of fits. But if we get Rush on a bigger map, it doesn't feel like 12v12 is going to work as much. It's going to feel too thin, and maybe the objectives aren't going to be as attacked as often because people are just going to sit back and snipe and try to get as many kills as they can with such little people. Or, alternatively, it could go really fast because you have no way of defending, because 12 people are going to have a hard time holding off 2 sites that are separated from each other because it's just 3 squads running in and taking the point super quick. I don't know, let me know what you guys think about it. Personally, I think it should go back to at least 16v16 to add a little bit more chaos to it, because that's what made the game mode so fun. I hope you guys had fun playing the beta as much as I did. I know there's a lot of things that I've mentioned that need to get fixed, or some of the negative parts, and I don't want to be negative about the game, but I'm just being honest about how I feel about it.
Holy shit.
And it's sort of feeling like, with the hype coming down, that the problems being highlighted are doing a little bit of damage, which is fine. This is a beta. This is what we expect. And I feel like the hype is sort of killing it because there's problems, and that Battlefield is known to have a lot of problems. But I will say this beta has been overall very, very good in comparison to previous ones. So I'm not going to be too harsh on it or be too down about how I think the game is going to be on launch. I'm pretty open and pretty confident that it's going to be good. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching the video. Peace.